Headsets these days are a lot more durable than their counterparts from 10 or 20 years ago, but if you use your bike a lot, particularly in bad weather conditions, you might find that your steering is not quite as free as it should be, and at that point you'll either need to replace the whole headset or at least the bearings. That's what we're going to show you how to do in this video, and because you need to take the fork out to do the job, we'll also explain how to replace your fork if you ever need to. The only tools you're going to need for the job in our case is a 4 and a 5mm Allen key. The 4 to undo the headset cap and the stem bolts, and the 5 to take the front brake away from the fork. To start with, undo the quick release and remove the front wheel. You may need to undo the release on the brake to allow the tyre through. Next, remove the front brake caliper from the fork. Using your 5mm Allen key, undo it anti-clockwise until the caliper is free. Make sure you don't lose the little washer. Then undo the top cap of the stem, which normally requires a 5mm Allen key. Remember how many headset spaces you've got on top as well before you take them off. Undo the stem bolts, loosening each side a little at a time to avoid overstressing either of the bolts. When they're loose, you should be able to pull the stem away from the fork steerer tube. As you pull it away though, make sure you keep hold of the forks in case they fall through the frame. Next, take off any remaining headset spaces and then the washer and centering collar, again remembering which order everything comes off in. If in doubt, take some photos using your phone as you do it. The forks should now fall through the frame and you can remove them completely. Check the crown race at the bottom of the steerer tube for any wear. If it looks smooth, you probably don't need to replace it. It's time now to pull the upper and lower bearings away from the frame. Often you'll be able to do this by hand, but if they've become lodged, you can gently use a flat-headed screwdriver to prise it away a little at a time on each side of the bearing. Repeat these steps for the lower bearing on the underside of the frame. Before you put your new headset on, clean the upper and lower part of the head tube and put some anti-seize assembly lube or grease on there to prevent the bearings getting locked in. Clean the crown race on the fork and put the new bearing on top of it. This rounded edge should face inwards towards the frame on both the top and bottom. Push the forks up into the frame and the bearing should click into place. You can use an elastic band here to make sure that the forks don't drop straight back out again. Next, put some of that anti-seize around the inside of the top of the head tube and then place the top bearing down over the steerer tube, sitting it into the frame. Next, replace the centering collar and washer and then any headset spaces which was sat underneath the stem. The stem and handlebars can then be put back onto the fork and any remaining spaces on top of that. Finally, put the headset cap on and tighten it a little with your 5mm Allen key. However, don't do the stem bolts up just yet. Now you can put your brake caliper back in, making sure that you've still got the washer on. Get it as centrally as possible by eye and then tighten with your 5mm Allen key. Then remove the bike from the stand and replace the front wheel. Pick the front end of the bike up and drop it on the ground a few times to bed everything in. To check if there's any play in the headset, hold the front brake on and rock the bars forwards and backwards. You should be able to feel if it's a little loose. To tighten it, turn the bolt on the top of the stem clockwise. Once you're satisfied that the headset is tight, make sure that the stem is straight in relation to the front wheel and then tighten the stem bolts. Finally, make sure that the front brake caliper is central to the wheel before going over each bolt that you've used to make sure they're all tight. Now, the reason that people sometimes get a little bit confused with this job is because both sides of the pedals are not threaded in the same way. They're actually designed so that when you pedal,